Hey, it's Jeremy from Jeremy.net. I am a comic book artist, writer, creator, self publisher, and I share my creative process here with you online. If you enjoy these live streams, like to get additional bonus live streams twice a month, you can become a Patreon subscriber for as little as $2 a month. Head on over to patreon.com/Jeremy. It's patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook, work in progress animated GIFs delivered at your inbox, blog posts about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what's inspiring me creatively, you can sign up for my free newsletter at substack.com/@Jeremy. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comic books, or if you read digitally on Kindle, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. They'll forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up my books there. So, speaking of books, I'm doing something a little bit different today. One, after this live stream, we're going to have a Patreon live stream. We're going to do another writing sprint. We tried it last week, and it seemed to go pretty well. People responded to it, so I'm going to do it again this week. But today, we're actually going to do a little bit of design, a little bit of formatting. So I've been talking about the fact that for my next comic book, I want to format it to be more mobile friendly. I don't plan to post it on Webtoons, but I want to have something that can work in either a vertical scroll, or honestly, I'm thinking more about Instagram as kind of the driving force for posting it there. And it occurred to me that it might be useful to experiment a little bit with that format and see how well the format's going to work before I start actually drawing pages. So what we're going to do is I went online and I looked up some basic dimensions for Instagram posts. I found a little link from an image from this site called Social Pilot, and it has dimensions for Instagram Reels, dimensions for Instagram landscape posts, square posts, and for portrait. And I'm going to try working with portrait. And the idea of what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a page from my previous comic book, Morningstar, and let me see here. This is going to be a little bit weird and janky. I'll tell you why in a sec. But I'm going to take a page from my comic Morningstar, and I am going to reformat it as basically an Instagram post. So I'm going to take this and break it up. I'm going to try and make it the whole page one long vertical scroll. It may end up being that it may have to be just a series of images or artboards, and each one will be its own image. It'll be posted as a sequence of images. That's part of the idea of doing this, is I'm not sure which format is going to work the best. So I kind of want to experiment with it. I will tell you that up front, I did not do the due diligence I should have done, but well, I'll tell you that in a second. First off, I see Herman's already in the chat. This is what's good. I should be on soon. Look forward to seeing you and talking with you. And Chris is here. He says, "Hey, design, okay." And this brings up a good point. In making art, knowing the context of where that art is going to be shown or viewed I don't want to say should, but let me this way, it should definitely be taken into consideration. But I think that it is essential to I think it's very important to determining how that art is made, or designing artwork for a specific format. Now, it is not that I am turning my back on print or that I think that print is unimportant, but I do think that given that most people carry their phones with them everywhere and fewer people actually read books anymore, I have to take into serious consideration, all right, even if my end goal is to make a physical graphic novel, if the people that are actually looking at art, if they're looking at it at all, if they're looking at it on their device, then maybe there's value to saying, I'm a print person, I'm old school, and I'm designing for print, and I'm going to design my pages, and that's it. I can understand that, but that does limit the ability to reach new readers and people who might not have discovered your work otherwise. So for me, I think it's worthwhile to at least test out. First off, I'm going to test out what does it look like to take an existing piece of my art and design it for mobile or redesign it for mobile. And then secondly, what I'm going to learn from doing this will then influence what I do with the new comic. So while I'm still working out doing the writing on the new comic, this will be a chance to play with some of these ideas before actually, making the thing. So the one thing that I did not do my due diligence beforehand is that I should have checked on StreamYard to figure out how to switch windows quickly, because you can share a screen. You can share your entire screen, which I don't want to do, or you can share a specific app. But what I have not looked up is how to switch from app to app, because generally when I'm doing design work, I frequently will move from one program to another very quickly. And in this case, I'm not going to be doing that because I'm just working on one big, Illustrator is the thing that I'm most using for design work. But I will tell you that this page that I have, the comic page that I have this open in Photoshop, and the letters are on a separate layer on this. So I have the PSD in Photoshop has just the artwork. Then it has the lettering on a separate layer in case I need to move it around. I'm going to play with designing with just this piece, but it might be that I have to turn off the layers altogether, turn off the lettering altogether, and just lay out the image and then redesign the lettering or change the flow of the lettering to make it work. So we're going to start here with the recommended image size, which first off, right now I have this, I think as is this a print file or is this no, it's in pixels. So we're going to start with just a box that is going to be the ideal photo or Instagram post size for portrait. So we'll start with 1080 by 1350. All right, so we've got this. In fact, it might actually make life kind of easier if I just fit to selected here. Maybe I'll need this, maybe I won't. We'll see. We'll start with this artboard number 1. Let's see here. See, Shomari in the chat says OBS Studios or something similar does that, I think. That is true. And I have been trying to resist using OBS only because I did not have a great experience with it when I first started live streaming. But maybe it has become more user-friendly. And it seems like a lot of the things that I am trying to do these days are probably better suited to OBS. So I might need to just get my head out of my ass and accept that. So let's see here. What happens if I start with panel 2 here and get it just a baseline of what size. This was something that I was actually talking about. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but the idea that the 9-panel grid was sort of a natural layout size for me, kind of a natural way to break down a comic page where the whole page has a beginning, middle, and end. And then within that page, each tier has a beginning, middle, and end. Each panel representing one of those things. The beginning of that, each tier represents, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story of that page. And then within the tiers, each of the 3 panels is the beginning, middle, and end of the tier. So it's just repeating the same story structure, almost like the comic becomes like a cascading tile of 3-act structures. Let's see here. One of the other things that I prefer about my being able to switch back and forth, well, I don't suppose it would really help in this case, but I actually usually even do my panel borders digitally, but that's not 100% true. What I usually do with my panel borders in a comic is that I make them digitally, but when I go to do a physical page, I will print out the comic page. I'll print it out with the letters turned off, but the panel borders turned on, just so I don't have to actually ink panel borders, because why? It's just one extra thing to have to do. And I usually work out those details when I'm in my my thumbnail stage and my layout stage when I'm doing the lettering. All right, what am I? Yeah, I'm just looking to center this panel. And this will actually be panel 2. So let's go over here. And I'm kind of wondering, you know what? For shits and giggles, let's go vertical. And actually, I should probably zoom out and see whether this canvas... Okay, the reason why I'm zooming way out is because knowing how many panels I have on this page, let's say I move this all the way up here. Now I actually have space to do 9 panels going down. I just wanted to make sure that I was going to get to the bottom, because it is kind of a pain in the ass. I think you can select and move multiple artboards at once, but being able to scroll downward and kind of mimic the vertical scroll, I think might be useful to me. We'll see. I don't know how useful it will or won't be. This is all, part of this is just, not part of, it's all an experiment in me trying, what does it look like when I'm formatting my comic books for mobile as opposed to print? I haven't really thought that through, and this is sort of the first steps in me thinking that through. By the way, in terms of looking at the comments, the reason why I'm so slow is because when I'm on the Illustrator page and moving things around, I can't actually see the comments. Let's see here. Herman is back. And let's see here. Shamari says, Cool Screen Recorder Pro is another program that I use. I'll take a look at it, see if it's something that works for what I'm doing. So Herman asks, "What's going on this session?" And what I'm doing is I am taking the first page of Morningstar and I'm reformatting it for Instagram. And I'm going to test out whether it works better in Instagram, swiping horizontally, going from panel to panel, or whether it'll work better reading as a vertical scroll. And the reason why I'm doing this with Morningstar is because working on the new comic book, my plan is to do it as a webcomic. My plan is to do it designing it for mobile. And then, I'm still going to lay out the pages so it'll work as a printed comic book page. But I hadn't really thought through how that's going to look. I just sort of have my rough thumbnails, and I thought it would probably be smart before I take the time to start drawing the actual pages, like even before I get to thumbnails, to take an existing comic, transform it into a vertical scroll or transform it into a mobile friendly format and just see how it looks, see how I like it. So that is what we're doing. I'm taking this, playing around, playing around with I want to see whether I need to re-letter the comic book, whether I need to change the lettering sizes up or down to put it on mobile. And this is just the first step. It's just taking the actual page and breaking it down into to Instagram friendly image sizes. Let's hear. Shamari says the name for it isn't that great. The app, cool Screen Recorder Pro. Well, you know what? Honestly, I could give a damn what the app is called. If it does what I need it to do, that I care much more about function than I do about branding is important, but I care about results more than that. So now I'm just going to slide panel 1 over there. In a way, this is actually pretty easy. It's going to be easy until I get to the last panel of the page, because the last two panels, honestly, the whole bottom tier, I'll show you why it's going to get really interesting and really challenging at the end here, is because the way I designed this particular comic book page is so that, you've got the first tier of dialogue, you've got the second tier, art and dialogue. The third tier is sort of an abstract image, kind of a collage, and it's breaking up into what becomes one long landscape tier at the bottom. So this not only visually leads into the bottom tier, but also the artwork that's in this sixth panel is part of the art of the panel below. So this is the other thing, is I want to see, how do I solve this problem right here in terms of this long, long wide tier at the bottom on an Instagram image. I haven't thought that through yet. I don't know how I'm going to solve it. I'm going to try a couple of things during this stream. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. And I thought this would just be interesting because for me, a lot of what I like doing live streaming is presenting you guys with the problems I'm having as a creator and just showing you my process of working through them, because I don't know all the answers. Most of the time, everything I'm doing, I'm figuring it out on the fly. And I figure sharing that with you, hopefully will encourage you guys to be like, hey, we got to figure stuff out on the fly. We're going to know very few of the answers to what our creative questions and our creative challenges. We're going to know very few of them, the answers, before we start a task. Most of the time, the answers come from the doing. So I'm going to just start doing, because this is how I figure things out. Let's see here. So Herman says, okay, that's great. I like the Pages motion comic motion comics move around a lot or focus on the intent panel. But movement is the thing that I like most. If you want to keep it simple, vertical. Yeah, I mean, yeah, oh yeah, Herman says like webtoons or something. And I am honestly really debating whether I want to go the webtoons route of long vertical scroll versus like image carousel that they would swipe through horizontally. And I'm gonna try both with this layout. We'll see how it goes. And I see Dylan in the chat. Dylan, how you doing? Hope you're having a happy Sunday. Dylan says, I hope everyone had a great Halloween. My Halloween was very quiet and peaceful. Wife and I just stayed in, watched what did we watch? We watched Weapons a few days before, which I think we had that conversation. Really, really enjoyed Weapons. We actually, because my wife is having a challenging day, we decided to just watch a Halloween episode of the sitcom The New Girl. We just watched like we said, let's just watch something fun. We don't need to do something really heavy, on Halloween. But I promised her next week we're going to do a proper scary movie Halloween night for next week. And I think I am going to propose that we watch that, not that it's scary, but that Demi Moore, Margot Qualley movie, The Substance, because that's something that both of us have wanted to watch for a while now. It definitely has horror-ish vibes. I don't think it's a Brandon Cronenberg film, but it definitely has Cronenberg vibes to it. And that's kind of the horror I like, a little bit of the psychological weird horror. So we'll see about that. But I hope that you had a wonderful Halloween as well, Dylan. Herman says, I see that the bottom page you have to have the art zoom from or focus on the text, and when you hit it again, it shows the art. Yeah, it's gonna be rough doing that. He says, have to take into account where you're going to showcase, like with writing. I want to knock out two birds with one stone. Like when I write, I want the script to be graphic novel and movie ready. Like if I want to send off to a movie studio, I don't know. Yeah, well, interesting, because I think that I don't know if there's a one-to-one between comic book scripts and film scripts. I think that there's overlap, but I don't know for sure if it would work to just be able to use the same one, because specifically, first off, there is no official comic book script format. But what I prefer to do when I'm writing a comic book script is to call out panels. So I like to say for the script for page 1, it'll be page 1, panel 1, page 1, panel 2, page 1, panel 3, etc., etc., etc. I wonder if I can do that. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The same way that you can take an object in Illustrator. I don't know how well any of you guys know Illustrator, but you can take an object and you can move it around. But if you hold down Option when you drag, hang on, I better do this vertically because I'm going to run out of space. If you hold down Option while you drag something in Illustrator, it makes a copy of it. So that way you can have two of the same thing. But here's the other thing. If you have that item still selected that you just dragged, if you hit Command D, it basically does step and repeat, where it'll just keep pasting more copies of the thing as you go. So I did not know for sure whether you could do that with artboards, but it turns out that you can. So basically, I've created a 9-panel scroll here. And this does make things a little bit easier in that now I can just take this next panel, drag that over. And this one, I can go down a tier and back. There we go. So that should be panel 4. Oh, nope, that was already panel 5. Panel 5. Now we get into the interesting stuff. Panel 6, where things start getting weird and wonky. Let's see here. Dylan says, my Halloween was good. I watched Erwin Papa's live. He's an Artcaster semi-regular viewer. And then Philip Chandler's live, a regular Artcaster viewer. All right, that's nice. Hanging out with the creative community during Halloween. I should do more of that. I haven't had a chance to catch up on a lot of Artcasters episodes over the past few months. The same chaos that has kept me like away from streaming regularly has also made it difficult for me to catch up on what a lot of my favorite fellow creatives are doing in the world, which sucks because I love being connected to this online creative community, and it's like not getting to see your friends for a long time. Let's see here. Herman says, I struggle with Illustrator. Such an awful interface for me, but a dope app and software. Let's see here. It says, that's going to be dope. What is the setup you did to enlarge your page and just dragging that over? Well, let's see here. Well, I'll show you real quick. By the way, the interesting thing about Illustrator is it is notoriously, I don't think it's that difficult to use, but that's only because I've been using it for like 20 odd years. It is notoriously counterintuitive for a lot of people, but I've used it for long enough that I feel like its interface, while it's not intuitive, once you realize all of the things Illustrator really can do, Illustrator is just as powerful as Photoshop, just in different ways. In the same way that you like with when I'm sure all of you have had somebody ask you, hey, how do you use Photoshop? And you're like, well, to do what? Because Photoshop can do just about anything. Illustrator, while it is vector as opposed to pixel based, has just the same level of flexibility with design as Photoshop does with picture making, and they definitely both overlap in terms of actual illustration, actual art making. But the thing that really helped me with Illustrator was learning keystrokes, because once you learn how to do a lot more with the different keystrokes and shortcuts, it's like it almost becomes like the Minority Report, like the Tom Cruise movie where he's just reaching down and swiping elements here and pulling this out and pinching and pulling, a lot like the gestures you would use when working on a tablet, except with Illustrator, it's a lot of it is key commands and, in combination with the mouse movements, you really get a sense of how to make it do all the things you want to do. In terms of enlarging my page and dragging it over, well, I mean, I started with just bringing this page in, not sure how, what size it was going to be. But what you can do is you can take a shape. For instance, let's say I just draw this square. To make it stand out, I'm just going to make it red just because everything else is going to be a particular color. You can take a shape and you can use this to create a mask. The same way that you mask in Photoshop, you, instead of drawing a detailed mask, you can just create a shape real quick. Well, basically it's the same thing with Photoshop and Illustrator. With Photoshop, you just make a selection and then you can mask that selection. With this, it's vector based. You can create shapes and you can select the object on top, the object below, and then you go to I don't even remember where the command is because I do it through I do it through keystrokes so much that I don't even remember, but it's clipping mask make. So object and then all the way at the bottom clipping mask make it. So it's command 7. I do it all the time, so I don't even look at the command anymore. But and then it masks this. So the same way that now the difference is in Photoshop when you make a mask, the object is just masked, and if you move it around, the mask moves with it. The difference in Illustrator is that you can select the object inside of the mask and the mask remains, but you can move elements around in it. You can do this in Photoshop as well if you mask a layer set instead of the actual layer. And the other thing that's interesting is you can also, hang on. This is the thing I also love. Sometimes when a file gets too complicated, you need to see the things inside or things that you're not sure are hidden. You can go into outline mode where all it does is it just shows you the bounding boxes of all the things and eliminate. It's like it's X-raying it. It's like putting it through airport security. What was I going to say? You can make custom masks by making custom shapes. So let's say I just go click around whatever this weird random shape is that I'm making here. Again, changing that to red. So I just clicked around and made this weird random shape. You can take that shape now and do the same thing. Again, I'm showing you on the commands, but it's like you do this like 5 times and you're like, I'm just going to remember command 7 because I get tired of going over that menu. You can make it with this random shape. Oops. You can make a mask with the circle. Any shape that you can draw, you can make a mask with. And the other thing that's kind of cool is in Photoshop, you would go on a mask and you would paint on it. In Illustrator, you can just grab the handles and distort the shape of the mask. And you can also add points to the mask if you want to modify it. So, this is basically just masking objects in Illustrator. Not necessarily pertinent to webcomics, but let me know, Herman, if that actually answered the question that you had or not, because I may have gone off. Sometimes I do that. I think you're asking one thing and I go on like a super random like tangent answering a question. You're like, no, man, that wasn't what I was trying to ask. Let's see here. Scrolling back up. Where was I? See here, Chris said that was the sink or swim look. I'm not even sure what that part is in reference to. I think that was that in reference to me just saying I figure out stuff as I'm going, either it works or it doesn't. If so, I am completely yes. That's kind of my I figured out by mostly you know what it is? I figured out by sinking, learning how to hold my breath, and growing gills. That's how I learned. Bummer. Herman says I was at work on Halloween. Whack. You know what? Whack, but you got paid. Always important, getting paid. And honestly, you know what? You see that sucked that you were at work. I hung out with my wife. We watched TV for a while, but I had my laptop on my lap while we were watching TV, and I was working. And then when she went to bed, I stayed up for like another 2 or 3 hours working. So I was working too. You gotta do what you gotta do to. So Don't feel bad. Well, I mean, I was comfortable hanging out at home, but I was still working. Let's see here. Dylan says, I've been catching up on old 30s to 60s monster movies, made a challenge for myself, but I didn't watch a lot of them. I'm also creating graphic designs as practice. Well, that's good. Hey, we're doing a little graphic design here. Herman, Herman says, Jeremy respectfully sounds like the teacher from Charlie Brown when explaining to me because my brain's slow. Well, I thought that you were kind of saying that my voice has a wah 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 to sound to it, which I could see. I would not take offense to. Um, no, it's again, I acknowledge that Illustrator is counterintuitive. I don't know if the book is still around anymore, but it used to be a book series called the Illustrator Wow book, and it would just be Adobe Illustrator 10, Adobe Illustrator 12 Wow, Adobe 15 Wow, Adobe CS2 Wow. And the thing I loved about that book was it just focused on all the things that make Illustrator frustrating. It was just a book on these are the things that make it frustrating. This is how to do it. And just, in fact, the most important thing I learned from the book was something called the finger dance. And the finger dance is simply getting your fingers used to command, option, and control. Because if you get really comfortable with doing those keys while you're moving the mouse around, you'll get to the point where you can get it to do things faster. And it literally is like the secret to understanding Illustrator is the keystrokes and the finger dance. And I honestly, it opened so many doors for me when I did that. I don't think I have my copy of the book anymore, but I am curious. I'm going to look after this is over and see if they still make it. Let's see here. All right. Comments. Yes, Herman says, "LOL. I don't know about bound and no boxes." Says, "Yeah, we'll have to sit down and learn it." It says, "Oh wait, it's similar to making a mask in Flash when animating." Yeah, it is very similar to making a mask in Flash when animating. And I mean, once Adobe purchased Flash, the overlap between the programs got even greater. And then Chris does say, in terms of the sink or swim, my process of just diving in, figuring it out as I go. Let's see here. Herman says, "I wish I was artworking. That's better. We've had some break-ins at the site, and we're focused on the camera setup. Had to update the CCTV for the crew to make it easy. See, but that's the thing. Your knowledge in terms of doing art and design makes you perfect for doing some tech support for these people. Kind of showing them like, hey, this is how we need to do A, B, and C. We can set this up, make this better. Blah, zitty, blah. So you're putting your skills to work, but hopefully it will give you a little bit more breathing space to do more art time. So I've got 9 panels worth of what would be Instagram posts. Let's see here. So here's where we get to the challenging part. The bottom panel here. And I got to decide, do I want to try and let's see here. Maybe this is where I start playing with the mask size. That might be what I need to do here. By the way, for anybody who showed up a little bit late, we do have a Patreon live stream scheduled at 1 p.m.-ish today. And we're going to do writing sprints like we did last week. So we're going to sit down and write. The plan is to write for about 25 minutes have a break, chit chat for a little bit, and then write for another 25 minutes. So we'll see how that goes. So we're going to have to try a couple of different things here. We're going to try both well, first off, it might make my life easier if I delete these last two artboards and just drag the other two down from here. Take this, whoops, and just drag this down 2 more times. Yeah, that line of dialogue that's there is too long and it needs to be broken up. Let's see. And this one, all right, let's see what happens if we try to just break this into thirds. So what I need to do now is hop back over to Photoshop. I need to grab this without dialogue. And I did, again, I figure out things or try different things as I go along. What I did in later issues of Morningstar is I would bring the finished artwork into the same lettering file that I was, the same file where I did the initial lettering. When I originally did this first issue, what I did was I would do my lettering in Illustrator, then I would paste it into the PSD, and when I brought the PSD into, well, first it was just exporting out TIFFs for print, but then it was eventually creating PDFs for the printer. Like I would create the PDFs just from the sequence of pages. But later on, what I ended up doing was I would export them out of Illustrator. So I would start with just my rough sketches and letter over my thumbnails or my rough layouts. And then I would just, in that same file, would bring the final art in. So it ended up eventually being kind of the same process. So for this, let's see what happens if I just take these thirds. This might be an idea. We start over here. And actually, I really like having her walk into the darkness. Let me go back up here and grab this frame. Well, I don't know if I really would need that frame size or not. Let's see here. Oh, Herman says, can you time that scene out and let it slow zoom to the right? I guess do something different to the mask. Well, here's the thing. I'm not making a motion comic, so the point of this is not necessarily to animate it. Um, when I said that I was trying to do this for mobile, I'm trying to make it mobile friendly, but I wanted to do be still images that you would just flip through on your phone. And I say that because if I start going in and animating every single panel, or just trying to add motion comic elements to it, I mean, really, adding what it would do is it would take me away from my larger goal, which is just to focus on the sequential storytelling. Um, Animation as an art form is something that I have done. I've made animated shorts before. I have a lot of respect for animation, but I don't have a desire to do even limited animation or motion comics animation. Um, so when you ask about whether I'm going to do something with the mask and let it slide, yes, it's possible, but my goal first and foremost is to make all of this work with just still images. I mean, doing an animated image, that's a very simple, that's an obvious answer to the situation. Let's see here. He says, I might be able to stick around. I don't have my files, but I may be able to sit in for 15 minutes. I think we'll see for the uh the writing sprint later today at 1. I say 1-ish only because I'm gonna see, like, if I have time to, I have a break scheduled in between, and I have a bite to eat, take care of a couple of things. So I want to give myself, honestly, I want to give myself space in case this live stream ran long and I needed more time afterwards. But I think we'll be okay. We'll probably wrap up. Unless something mind blowing happens, we'll wrap up at the top of the hour, and then I'll have a reasonable amount of time to eat and do things before the writing sprint live stream. Herman says, yeah, this process needs a lot more attention and focus. It's like you don't want to cramp yourself artistically, but if you're going to showcase digitally, you may have to streamline your artistry. So you won't be overworking yourself. Like I was saying about doing the script, movie, graphic novel. Gary says, I'm late. You know what? You are right on time, Gary. Yeah, well, see, this is the funny thing, which you mentioned earlier, Herman, about not over cramping myself. That's why I thought it made a lot more sense to look at doing this with my previous comic, because I am literally in this stage right now with the new comic where if there's going to be roadblocks to doing it as a mobile friendly comic, I want to understand those roadblocks. I want to understand those limitations now so that I can design and draw and lay out the story taking that into consideration. Like I was already thinking about the fact that for a lot of pages, like I would probably design, for instance, I was thinking like when I have a single tier going across a comic going across a comic page, I very commonly, here, let me just do this in give it a fake border here. A lot of times, even in later issues of Morningstar, let's just make this extra chunky to make sure you guys can see it. I would frequently design a page where you would have a single tier and have it go. I would design tiers where it would be a single image, but it would be broken up into 2 panels. And I would just design so that nothing important happened or no important visual elements ran across the gutter. And even this, the way I have this broken up, this might be a perfectly fine way to break up this page. This may be the route that I go. Designing a page to do this across thirds is a little bit more challenging. Well, it's not really a lot more challenging. it means that you need to know. These are the kind of things where you need to know what you're doing before you lay out the page. So it's not a matter of, oh, it's hard, or it's not difficult and it's not simple. It's a matter of just having the information before you do it. And if you have the right information, if you have the right understanding and you can plan for it, then it really just becomes another aspect of the storytelling. It's just even deciding whether to use a splash page versus how many tiers you're going to break a comic up in. For instance, now that we look at this, with the page broken up into 3 tiers like this, I think that breaking it into 2 tiers, I mean, not into 2 tiers, into 2 columns as opposed to 3 columns would actually work better. Only because I think that with this panel, this is something that no one has actually even bothered to notice. But the female demon, that's the leader of all the demons, that's the woman, the figure that's at the head of this line, this parade of creatures marching into the darkness, Isbaal. She's at the head of the line there. That's her. Basically, this is her first appearance, is on the first page of the comic. Her and the big bulky guy that's right behind her, they make a compelling visual unit. But when you look at, say, this in-between tier, the only thing that would make this compelling would be if this was like a really detailed panel. If you were somebody like a Joe Mad or a J. Scott Campbell and you were like rendering the hell out of these, then a parade of creatures walking by in one panel might actually be really cool. But for me, going for more of a minimalist David Mazzucchelli, Alex Toth style, in my case, the way that I draw, the way that I render, it really has to rest on strong storytelling. The image itself is just not compelling enough. And doing it where the last panel or the first panel of the sequence just being like a tail coming on here, you can make it work if you have a lot of dialogue and that tail relates to the dialogue in terms of it's teasing part of the narrative that's going on here. But as you can see in the actual, I thought I had a version that had the dialogue up here somewhere. Well, sure. Nope, that's not what I want. So same page with the dialogue. Yeah, the dialogue here is not so compelling. It's almost like an overture. Like it's just almost like this page works as like a poem, basically telling you this is what happened to the demons that fell from, how the demons came to be before we get into the story of these angels and demons and their ongoing war. That's kind of what this page works at. So the dialogue is a bit more sparse here, and it doesn't lend itself to breaking it up that much. So for all of those reasons, I think that what may work well is simply to take this tier and break it into 2 images. So then it becomes more like, and this is honestly what I was kind of planning for for the Pandora's Box comic, was I was planning to do it in sort of Jack Kirby 6 panel grid as opposed to 9 panel grid. And I kind of like the idea of having that stretched out more, but I just need to decide how much I actually want to have visually. This comes down to, again, what I was saying before about making sure that the crop doesn't crop anything that's important. And another thing that I can do is, because this is going to be broken up, I'll show you a clever. I don't want to call myself clever. That really feels self-congratulatory and kind of gross. Um, but I will show you that one of the things that I was thinking about was in doing this as a mobile friendly comic, that one of the things I would do for some panels is compose them like this, where the image would still naturally break in two, but when you look at it, no, that's not what I want. That's not what I want either. What I want is, I'll just use the Pathfinder. That is so weird. Why are these not? These should be overlapping panels. Yeah, but the point is that I could design a panel like this, and in the comic book page have it read like one whole tier. But I know, but as I design it, I can design it knowing that I'm going to put a break in between those two, break this up into two panels as part of it. So you'll scroll through the first half and then the second half. Okay. All right. So we're getting close to the top of the hour. Let's go through the last couple of comments here. Let's see here. Herman says, I see mobile friendly, much simple to the point. I see. And he says, I say break it into two instead of three, makes the viewer, in a sense, makes their eyes travel to go back, make their eyes travel to go to the next panel. I'm leaning towards, yeah, it says like two big panels. Yeah, in a way, it's kind of like I'm doing a double page spread just within a mobile swipe. Now, the other thing is, this all works really well in carousel. I don't know how well it's going to play out in vertical scroll. But that's one of the things that you'll see when I'm done with this is I'm going to, I'll try putting it online and testing both vertical scroll and carousel and see how it reads and see how people like it. That's kind of the beauty of doing this, is it's a chance to experiment and figure out these things beforehand, while on the other hand, I'm still dicking around with the writing and kind of try to tighten that up for the comic. So yes, Herman says like two big panels. Shamari says, I thought they were roots underground. Yeah, you're seeing it out of context, because the comic book is it's a comic book that I've already completed in graphic novel form, but it's a retelling of Lucifer's Fall from Heaven as a Western. And let me just hide everything else. And so, this is literally the first page of the book. And the idea of starting with a white space at the top and saying in the beginning. So it's like kind of a void. And I want to do sort of a Monty Python-esque thing of God's hand coming down and pushing a sign into the void saying, this is heaven. And then heaven's empty. And he breathes life into it and it smiles. But then my philosophical take on this is that the emptiness, because it's empty, is hungry. And it's kind of like it represents the existential angst and hunger for meaning that all sentient beings tend to have. Humanity is cursed with this whole, why are we here? What is the purpose of things? And that is what this hunger, that the void, the emptiness of existence starts out as. And it very rapidly morphs into monsters. And so I can see how it would look like Roots Underground because of the fact that you're going down and down the page. But yeah, it really that scratchiness that's in the fifth panel just becomes sort of like splatter that's surrounding sort of the monsters. Like these are the monsters that grow out of that existential angst. So the whole thing is just sort of me working out my existential angst. That's the entire comic series. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the two panels as we were talking about with Herman. So let's see here. Herman says you can scale the middle part over so it won't run into the other text like a reveal to the next panel. That's true. And also, I don't have to have it for the mobile version. I don't have to have it be a one-to-one. I can do overlap. So to be honest, I could also do it where, so there's a creature right, in fact, let's now change this. Yes, Khaleesi. Let's change this to blue so we can have, panel 1 will be red, panel 2 will be blue. Now I could divide it just like this. What I could also do is I can design it so that on the page, like on the printed page, it'll be one big tier, but on a mobile device, I can design it so that you get overlap all the way to include the head of the creature that's below these claws here. And I can also, on the panel before, I can stretch this out so that you get this horned demon. They're all horned, but this one who's standing upright, that's kind of like right by the midsection haunches of the big quadruped demon behind. So you can say that this middle section column here could be the overlap, and you can totally do it where you've got part of the next panel in one, and then you swipe, and then you get the rest of that panel and more in the other. That's another option. These are all reasons why I'm playing with this while I'm still writing the new comic, because I'm like, I have a whole finished graphic novel I can play with. I can work out these format issues. And to be honest, not for nothing, I'll put it on. I've put process work of this on Instagram, and I've put individual panels on Instagram. I've never made it as a digital Instagram comic. Putting the first issue completely on Instagram might help drive traffic to sell the comic. Could always use more trade sales. So let's see here. Herman says, because Illustrator is wonky, man, I just don't use it. It's still great though. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I resisted it for a long time as well. Shamari says, love the concept. Why I'm here makes a great metaphor too. Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So it looks like we're caught up on comments here. And it's amazing. It's rare for us to be caught up on comments and right at the top of the hour. So I think on that note, like I said, we're going to take a break at about 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So in about an hour from now, we're going to start a Patreon live stream. The Patreon live stream is going to be a writing sprint. We'll turn on, we'll talk for a few minutes, and then we're going to write for 25 minutes. And you guys work on whatever you're working on. Let's say you're not a writer. Maybe instead you draw for 25 minutes, whatever it is. It's 25 minutes of sustained focus on whatever you're trying to get done. So we're going to hang out, be accountability buddies. We'll do it for 25 minutes. We'll take a break. We'll chat for 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll do another 25. So that's coming up in about an hour. And yes, Herbert, he says he hit that like button. If you're in here, hit that like button. If you're new and you're watching this for the first time, hit that subscribe button. If you know somebody else that gets off on talking about comic book formatting and layout and page design and formatting comics for social media, then please forward it to anybody else that you think would enjoy this. Herman says, at what time you're on Mountain? And let's see here. Yeah, Dylan says same as Herman. Great question. What is Pacific Standard Time on Mountain? Let me see. So 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time will be 2 p.m. on Mountain Time. So at 2 p.m. your time. That's when I'll be on. Oh. No, Herman says I'm on he says I'm on East Time. Okay. Yes. Well, that's why I just say that I always say that it's Pacific time because I figure people could just punch in what is this time in my time zone. So I just tell you what time zone I'm in because that's the one I know. Anyway, I'll see you guys in an hour. Oh, as always, if you enjoy these live streams, would like to get additional bonus live streams like the one we're going to do in an hour, you become a Patreon subscriber for as little as $2 a month. Head over to patreon.com/Jeremy. It's patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook, work in progress animated GIFs delivered right to your inbox, blog posts about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what's inspiring me creatively, you can sign up for my free newsletter at substack.com/@Jeremy. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comic books or if you're digitally on Kindle, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. They'll forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods. It's a standalone psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. You can also pick up my most recent project, Morningstar, a retelling of Lucifer's Fall from Heaven as a Western. It's an 8-issue series. Volume 1 contains issues 1 through 4. Volume 2 contains a conclusion, issues 5 through 8. Both have extensive back matter, character designs, thumbnails, page layouts, and more. You can also pick up Wound, the Art of Jeremy Burley, Volume 1, also available there. And if you go to the homepage of my YouTube channel and scroll down to the flip through section, you can find book flip throughs of my comic books to see what's inside them. Check them out before you buy. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. For patrons, I'll see you guys in an hour. For everyone else, I'll see you next week. Thanks so much. That's it for now. Go be creative.